Hi there. We have breaking news this afternoon for you from St George's Park. We have been expecting news on the appointment of that man there, Gareth Southgate. We can go live to our reporter, Rob Dorset. Rob, once again, good afternoon. What can you tell us?
Well, it's now official. Gareth Southgate is the new England manager. I've just been handed a statement from the Football Association that confirms as much. He's signed a 4-year contract. So importantly, a contract that takes in both the next World Cup in Russia in 2018 and the European Championships in 2020. To give you a bit of background on what exactly has happened here today, we've had an FA board meeting. The 12 members of that FA board were really here to ratify a decision made by the 3 men of the FA selection panel. They are Martin Glenn, the chief executive, Dan Ashworth, the technical director, and Greg Clark, the FA chairman. It was those 3 men who'd said all along that they wanted Gareth Southgate to replace Sam Allardyce in a full-time position. Of course, he's been interim manager for the last 4 games, winning 2 and drawing 2. But Dan Ashworth made that presentation to the FA board today. They rubber-stamped it, which is why we've been able to confirm the details with you right now. And I think the fact that he signed a 4-year contract is significant. A lot of people have been asking why it's taken 9 days for the FA to appoint Gareth Southgate when he was the only person that the FA interviewed and clearly the outstanding candidate. It says here that Martin Glenn, all 3 of the selection panel, felt unanimously that Southgate was the outstanding candidate. Well, I think the FA wanted to do their due diligence, especially following criticism in the way they appointed and then had to quickly dispose of Sam Allardyce. They wanted to make sure they did it properly, but also there was a hard negotiation from Gareth Southgate here. He was no pushover in the negotiation. He wanted that 4-year contract and he wanted financial comparison with his predecessors, Sam Allardyce and Roy Hodgson. Now, my understanding is he isn't being paid quite as much as those predecessors because the FA felt he didn't have the same level of experience, certainly in club football, as they did. But crucially, he has got that 4-year contract, which is a longer one than the FA originally wanted to give. Although our sources are telling us there could well be a break clause after the 2018 World Cup, which allows the FA to terminate Southgate's contract at something of a discount, if you like. They wouldn't have to pay him up the full amount. Now, let me tell you a couple of the quotes that we've got here, hot off the press from the FA. The Southgate himself has said, "I'm extremely proud to be appointed England manager. However, I'm also conscious that getting the job is one thing. Now I want to do the job successfully. I've thoroughly enjoyed working with the players over these past 4 games, and I think there's huge potential. I'm determined to give everything I have to give the country a team they're proud of and one that they're going to enjoy watching play and develop. For me, the hard work starts now." And there's quotes here from Martin Glenn, the FA's chief executive as well, saying, "We're delighted to confirm Gareth as England manager. He's obviously somebody we know well, but it's his understanding of international football and the development set up at St George's Park that is important." And I think that's a key phrase from Martin Glenn there. Dan Ashworth was very passionate about appointing Gareth Southgate. He's been the under-21s manager, of course, since August 2013, so 4 years in that post. There's been a lot of talk of the FA England's DNA. Well, Gareth Southgate is very much part of that England DNA. He's now confirmed officially as England's new manager.
Rob, thank you very much indeed. More from Rob at St George's Park a bit later on. Rob, bringing us there some quotes from Martin Glenn and also from Gareth Southgate himself. Let's bring you some more reaction now from another former England international, Jamie Carragher, who actually played with Southgate for his country, and he has backed the appointment.
I think he'll do well. He should know the squad well. He's been around the FA, St George's Park for a long time now. He'll know the young players coming through. And I think maybe the English public are sick, really, of a foreign manager coming in on big wages and not really producing. Let's give, when I say one of our own, maybe someone within the FA who knows how it works, got a great relationship with Dan Ashworth there. So let's try something different. We've tried every other avenue. Hopefully this one will work, and I think it started well in what he's done, the decisions he's made, the teams he's picked, and the results that he's had. So I think that was his job interview in the 4 games that he had.
Well, after leaving Middlesbrough, Southgate's next managerial post was in taking charge of the England under-21s. He enjoyed a remarkable win rate there. The team only lost 2 of 32 games under him, winning 27 of those. Win rate 84%. So what do players who've worked under Southgate think about the appointment? Well, West Ham's Mikel Antonio was included in his first senior squad at interim charge, and he told us he's got total respect from the players.
He's quite close to the team. He's quite young, so he could probably got quite a few young players, and so he kind of knows how to treat young players. He's got the respect. He treats the players like they're grown men, like they're adults. So it's not curfews and this and that. It gives you some type of freedom, and that's why I feel that the boys are going to do well in it.
And in terms of the style of play, that looks to have been positive?
Definitely. He likes to play football. Let's keep it neat and tidy. He trusts the boys to be free on the pitch, and it's something that the boys are relishing.
It's definitely a popular choice, I would imagine so, because not only does he, encourage confidence and encourage us to play and really, put our authority on games. He understands football and he understands us as players, because he's been there before as well. As he's played for England, he's played in tournaments for England. He's had good times and bad times for England. So he understands all aspects of the game, and that's nice to know, as a player. So he allows us to express ourselves and, do the country proud.
Well, at 46, Southgate is the youngest England manager since Steve McClaren, who was 45 when he was appointed in 2006. The last 3 appointments have all seen men in their 60s handed the role. Now, another of Southgate's former England teammates has also given his support to the appointment, but Jamie Redknapp questioned the time it's taken to give him the job officially.
I don't really know why they've waited so long to do it. I mean, it just pretty much sums up the FA. They've taken this long. I mean, the audition went well. He obviously won some important games. We played pretty well. I'm not sure who else is out there, to be honest. I like Gareth. I think he's a good guy. I remember playing alongside him for England, and he always struck me as he'll be the sort of guy that will manage. But you just worry sometimes with the FA, what they're doing. I think they've got to make, this should have been he should have been appointed a long while ago. We can all get on with it.
So does Southgate have the players available to reach the final stages of major tournaments? Well, another pair of his former international teammates aren't quite so sure.
He's a nice bloke. I played with Gareth. I couldn't believe how good a player he was until I went and played with him at Aston Villa. Knows his football, loves his football. People say, has he got the experience? What English manager would have the experience, for international football? But for me, he's been with the under-21s, he's won a tournament, he's played in World Cups, played in European Championships. It's all about the players. Have we got the players? I'm not sure we've got the players. That's the problem. I don't think it's the managers. I think it's the players. And, long as he makes big decisions and he makes the right decisions for the right reasons, I think he will be successful. But I still think we need to get a couple of youngsters in who have done well.
I think it's really a job at the moment. It's a thankless task because I don't feel that we've got the players to compete at the very top level at international football, and it's tough because everyone expects in this country England to be up there, challenging the top teams in the world, when realistically we don't really have the depth of squad and players at our disposal for us to be able to do that. So it's a tough, thankless job, I think, for Gareth, but I hope he does well.
Well, next up for England, it is a friendly away to Germany in Dortmund in March. That is 4 days before their next World Cup qualifier against Lithuania at Wembley. And then in June, it's Scotland away at Hampden Park, having already beaten them at home at Wembley in this qualifying campaign before England end the season with a high-profile international friendly against France in Paris. Now, next season begins with an away qualifier in Malta on September the 1st. They've already beaten them, of course, as well. Then it's a home game with Slovakia just 3 days later on the 4th. The side that they've drawn with so far, Slovenia, then come to Wembley on October the 5th before the final World Cup qualifier away to Lithuania on the 8th of October. Now, England's most capped player, Peter Shilton, told us there are some risks to this appointment.
I think it's an appointment on potential more than actually what is achieved in management. I think in some ways he fits the bill. He's actually had international experience as a player, which I think is good. I think that side of it's good. And I think he fits the profile that the FA want off the pitch, which is also very important after the Salah Allardyce fiasco. On the other side, his management record isn't brilliant. I mean, at Middlesbrough, it wasn't great, and all right, he won a trophy in the 21s, but managing an international team for a big tournament like the World Cup, you know, has he got that experience and has he proven that he's got that toughness that goes with it? We've got to wait and see, but, you know, he's got the job and good luck to him.
So, Gareth Southgate has now been confirmed as England's permanent manager. We'll have much more reaction next. Yes, just to recap the breaking news, Gareth Southgate is the England manager on a permanent basis. He has signed a 4-year contract, having taken interim charge of the national side for 4 games. And these are some quotes from the new permanent, at least, England manager. Gareth Southgate saying, "I'm extremely proud to be appointed England manager. However, I'm also conscious that getting the job is one thing. Now I want to do the job successfully." And he continues, "I've thoroughly enjoyed working with the players over these past 4 games, and I think there's huge potential. I'm determined to give everything I have to give the country a team that they're proud of and one that they're going to enjoy watching play and develop. And for me, the hard work starts now." And this from the FA's Chief Executive, Martin Glenn. "We are delighted to confirm Gareth as England manager. He's obviously somebody we know well, but it's his understanding of international football and the development set up at St George's Park that is important. He performed extremely well during the 4 games he was in temporary charge, and he impressed us during a tough interview process." So those are the thoughts of the FA's Chief Executive, Martin Glenn, and of the man himself, Gareth Southgate. OK, as you can see, our Chief Football reporter, Nick Collins, is here to discuss this further. I mean, we were saying this before, weren't we, Haley? It's the worst-kept secret in football, really. We kind of knew it was going to happen. It was just really a question of when rather than if. Was there anyone in the frame at all aside Southgate? Was he really the only candidate?
He was pretty much the only candidate. They obviously wanted to make sure that they went through the right process. They have done, but equally they haven't unnecessarily dragged it out. So now we know, and as Gareth Southgate says, the job starts now. It's the right choice. It'll be a popular choice, and I think with a 4-year contract, he's been given a terrific mandate by the FA to go out and actually be successful, and that's what everybody will hope for, obviously.
Do you think it was an easy decision for the FA?
Pretty much so, yeah. I mean, here's a player that won more than 50 caps for England, a man that's been at St George's Park for the best part of the last 5 years. He's been in charge of the under-21s. He's won silverware, importantly. That Toulon tournament is something that England hadn't managed to win for some time. He did. He has the respect of the players because of his 50 caps and because many of them came through that under-21 setup that he was in charge of. So for all those reasons, he's the right man for the job. And he's under no illusions from what we've seen of how he's responded to the news of being appointed the permanent manager. It's not just good enough to be the manager, he wants to be a successful England manaure.
What about qualities, what about skills? What does he bring to the role, Nick?
Listen, he's a very bright, calm, astute, assured man, but don't think that means he's a soft touch, because he isn't. The players will discover that. He famously once said as a player that when England played Brazil in the quarter-finals of the 2002 World Cup, when they wanted a rousing speech from Sven-Göran Eriksson, instead of getting Winston Churchill, he got Ian Duncan-Smith. Now, some people might argue, well, hang on, you're Ian Duncan-Smith, but he's not. Believe you me, he's a man that can rise to this challenge, and it will be a challenge. England are comfortable at the moment in their qualifying group, but there's still work to be done. And then, of course, once they get to the tournament, the real work begins, in a sense, because England never have any problems winning their qualifying group, but it's a different story once the tournament begins. And that's where I think he'll be able to do a lot of good work. I do think that he's just the kind of manager that can bring the best out of these players when it matters.
So what will his first task be then?
Well, qualifying, I guess, obviously, for the World Cup. But, I mean, he's in a good position with 10 points in 4 games, top of Group F, 2 points clear. I suppose the Wayne Rooney issue will be addressed. But he said at the time when he became the caretaker manager that he sees Rooney as the captain of this squad, even if he's not going to pick him every time. And he showed that he's quite capable of dropping Rooney. the Slovenia game, Rooney didn't play. I do believe that when Rooney will still play a part in this qualifying campaign, there may be a decision to make come the World Cup in 2018, but I think you don't discard someone of his abilities and experience lightly. And I think Gareth Southgate will be mindful of that. So I do think that Wayne Rooney will continue to be a part of this England squad. But I think what you'll see, or what hopefully you'll see from England as they develop under Gareth Southgate, is a team that likes to play on the front foot, that wants to be confident. The players that are coming through are those kind of players. And if he can harness them correctly, then what we saw against Spain, I know the ending wasn't what everybody was hoping for, but there was some very encouraging signs there against a top team that England can play and play well. They can keep possession when needed. And those are the kinds of messages he'll be drumming home to his squads in the next few months as England continue towards qualification for the World Cup.
Yeah, it will be exciting to see how England's identity as a footballing team develops under Gareth Southgate. But also, it's an incredibly high-pressure job, isn't it? If not the most high-pressure job in world football, some might argue. What is he like under those sort of circumstances? That's ramping up towards the major finals.
Well, I mean, we'll find out, I suppose, is the brutal answer. But from what I know of the man, I'd say he's more than capable of looking after himself in that high-pressured environment. And I think he's under no illusions that it can be difficult, especially if England falter en route to Russia, or indeed then start struggling once the tournament gets underway. But we understand there's a break clause in the contract after 2018, so if it doesn't go well, then maybe the FA can re-evaluate. But I think deep down they know they've got their man, and they can have Southgate in place for the next 3.5, 4 years, and that could be crucial for English football to develop after what happened in Nice last summer.
Yeah, we have some shots just coming into us of Martin Glenn alongside Gareth Southgate there, shaking his hand, as Southgate had said, as he has announced he was extremely proud to be appointed England manager, sitting there having his photos taken as the official England manager. How important, Nick, will the team around him be in terms of his coaching staff and the people that he works closely with now at St George's Park?
Well, it'll be key. It's very much the St George's Park operation isn't just the senior England team. It's all about the 21s, the 20s, 19s, 18s, etc., and all working together to make sure that the England DNA, if you like, the master plan is carried out. Steve Holland has done a terrific job for him so far, both in the under-21s and then coming into the full England setup. He's a big admirer of him. He could play a key role as England sort of go forward in 2017. There may be room for others to come in as well, but he'll choose his backroom staff very carefully, that's for sure.
It's interesting, Nick, you all have experienced lots of different sort of levels of international football, particularly with the big sides that have struggled over time. So, for example, Germany, the late 90s, early 2000s, they ripped it up and started again. Spain had to evolve from one of those sort of, you know, dark horses to a proper world force. Is this as close to England are getting to being radical, if you like, and trying to really enforce something that's going to have a real step change in the future? I
think they have to because of what happened at Euro 2016. It's a ridiculous record that it's been a decade since they've won a knockout match at a major tournament, and that obviously has to change. Is it root and branch change? Is it evolution? Maybe it's a bit of both. Maybe Gareth Southgate could just be the man that is in the right place at the right time as this group of players come through to maturity. Roy Hodgson did a terrific job in making sure that he blooded those youngsters, and now it's Gareth Southgate's job to turn them into proper top international players. And I think they can be, and I think what happened last summer can still be used to a positive degree and make England a bigger and better force at a major tournament, and that's what the country craves, let's face it. Great though it is to be going to all these qualifiers and seeing England win and get through quite comfortably, what everybody wants is to then see them perform well in 2018 in the summer in Russia. And yeah, I think Gareth Southgate could be the man that does that.
As far as the contract is concerned and the details of that, was a 4-year deal what you were expecting?
A 3.5, 4-year deal. The key thing is that it's not just up to the World Cup in 2018, because again, the stability, the continuity, things we've talked about, which is important for England, they will all be at risk. Now, obviously, if England don't perform well at the World Cup, they might have to revisit it. But I think it's absolutely right that Gareth Southgate gets the mandate through to Euro 2020. Incidentally, a tournament which, if he can do really well at, semi-finals and final at Wembley.
Yeah.
So much to look forward to. But before then, a lot of hard work. But in Gareth Southgate, he's more than just a safe pair of hands. He can be a visionary. He can take this England team forward and actually develop them. And I know there'll be doubters that will say, oh, but look, he's not got a great deal of Premier League management pedigree. But, you know, it's a very different game, international football, to the Premier League. And the more experience he's gathered over the years at St George's Park just helps him for this next stage of his career.
So he's the permanent manager of the senior squad with England. But how much do you feel he will have input into the youth teams, the junior categories, if you like, where he was previously involved, to help this evolution really take place and have a real impact with that then?
I think if he can, he'd certainly like to have some kind of role doing that, because that's what he's been doing. He was director of elite development at one stage, then of course went away, came back under 21. So he knows full well the setup there and the players coming through and the younger ones too. So it would seem to me to be a sort of perfect marriage from that point of view. Here's a guy that is steeped in the traditions and knowing exactly what the FA want from their England teams. He could be the man that pulls all the strands together. And even if he doesn't deliver silverware during his time as England manager, maybe the teams coming behind with his help could do. That's what you've got to say. Stay optimistic.
And also, Nick, it's interesting, isn't it? Football's a funny business sometimes. The first match that he will have in full permanent charge of the England side is against Germany. And of course, the famous penalty miss in Euro 96 in the semi-finals. Is he the sort of man that kind of thinks about those things and holds them, you know, not bearing a grudge as such, but waiting for those opportunities to exact some sort of revenge?
Well, I mean, he's a man very much aware of the history of football and its place, and of course it won't have escaped his attention who the first opponents will be, but I think very much he's going to be looking forward, using that game. It's a real prestige friendly away to Germany, a repeat of last year's game, which again was a fantastic victory, and we all kind of hoped that was going to lead to a strong England performance in the summer. But again, this is his chance to show that it wasn't a fluke and that those players, it was a young England team, we shouldn't forget, in Berlin that night. No Wayne Rooney, of course, and they did extremely well. If he can get half that kind of response, that would be a good start. But at the end of it, he's a pragmatist. He'll look at those two games, and it's the game against Lithuania, the 3 qualifying points at stake, that will actually take most of his attention now in the build-up to those matches, because that's key. Get England qualified as soon as possible, and then you can start to not experiment, but perhaps draw in a few more players to the squad. Draw in. I don't think he'll be frightened to bring in under 21 players at all. I think he believes very much in them. I mean, we saw in the background piece when he was asked about his success at Toulon what he had to say, and that's very much his philosophy. So it'll be interesting to see if he lives up to it. But I think the English team is in good hands, I promise you.
You've obviously followed England for many decades now, seen the many changes, different managers come and go, break the very biggest of stories, introducing this new manager now, a new era looking ahead. When you look at some of the other managers, knowing what you know about them, and when you compare them to Gareth Southgate, how do you think he's going to do?
I think he'll be fine, I really do. There is an inner steel to him, there has to be. As he said before, you can't... He is a nice guy, and he's an intelligent man, and people obviously give him a lot of credit for that. But to have had the career he's had and to have done the things he's done, you've got to have a bit of steel and something about you, and he does have that. He might not be a man to throw teacups in a dressing room at half-time, but don't you worry, he'll get the message over to the players forcibly if he has to, and you know, I think he'll do okay. Yeah. At the end of it all, the manager is only as good as his players, and he's got to just hope and make sure that the key ones stay fit at the right time and that the younger pool comes through and continues to develop.
How do you think the players will actually feel about him being
Oh, they'll be
manager?
delighted, seriously, Hayley. A lot of them have come from that under-21 squad. Those that were there established already, are well aware of his 50-plus caps for England. That buys you a lot of street cred in that dressing room, believe you me. And the fact that he has managed in the Premier League. He played in the Premier League for many years. And as I say, he fits the bill, he ticks all the boxes, and now it's his chance to show what he can do.
It's interesting, the last match, the 2-2 draw with Spain in that friendly, the man in the opposite dugout, Julian Lopetegui, has kind of come through a similar route, if you like, through the youth categories and then to the Spanish national team. He was very much in favour of Southgate getting this job. And a man who's known for having some real tactical nous, Julian Lopetegui. What about Gareth Southgate in that respect? Has he got that level of tactical acumen to really help him develop this role?
Look, I think he may have to develop more, but I think, yes, he has, is the answer. Against Slovenia, for example, on a very difficult night, he made sure that England didn't lose that. And I know it was the end of a wonderful run of 13 consecutive victories, but it was important that England didn't lose that night. And we saw in the performance against Scotland how quickly and soon they were able to put that game to bed. He does have the tactical nous, but he'll learn, and he'll have some good people alongside him as well. There is a big difference between under-21 international football and senior international football, but he's done well at one level, and he's made a promising start. 2 wins and 2 draws, OK. Perfect world, it would have been 4 wins. It wasn't far away from being that. Importantly, he didn't lose any of those games, and he didn't do anything that made you think, oh, this man can't cope. He very much can cope in the sort of pressure cooker of international football, and let's see how he gets on.
What about coping with the pressures that come with the media and the scrutiny that ourselves and particularly the newspapers put on the England manager? How do you think the relationship will be between him and them?
Listen, I think he will hope that it continues to be a good one. He's a man who's worked in the media extensively before. As a player, as a young player, he used to have a newspaper column in the local paper in Croydon. He was always interested in journalism, and I think he understands it more than perhaps most football managers, and you would hope, as a result, that will lead to a harmonious relationship between all branches of the media and himself. But listen, ultimately, if England are struggling, he knows what's coming his way, and not all of it is nice, but he is a strong man. He's got a great family behind him, and I think that they'll all play a part, and you hope he doesn't have to find out what the difficult side of being England manager is. I mean, it's tagged the impossible job, and I don't think anybody believes it's impossible, but they're aware just how hard it can be. But I think he's young enough and he's talented enough to do really well at it.
Does the fact that he is English buy him any more time at all, Nick?
Possibly, yes. David, it's a good thought, and the fact that he's an ex-player will also help from that point of view. But ultimately, if he doesn't qualify for the World Cup, then whatever nationality you are, it's probably going to cost you your job. That's the way it goes these days. He may be given a lifeline, if you like, if it doesn't happen, but you would think that's how England managers will get judged. You've got to get to the tournament and then you've got to do OK. If England qualify well and then struggle in 2018, I still believe they would persevere with him. If they don't qualify for either of the next 2 tournaments, then he'll be in trouble. But I think he's good enough and got a good enough set of players that should ensure quite comfortably England will qualify for both those tournaments. But it'll all really begin once those tournaments get underway and everybody settles down to see just how England are going to cope in the pressure of a major tournament.
What will be deemed successful?
Certainly the knockout stages, and really you've got to say winning a knockout game.
It's been a while.
Well, it has, yeah. We mentioned it before. England have won their groups before and then failed to capitalise on it, and as at Euro 2016, didn't win their group, and everybody thought, oh, we might have got away with that one because it's only Iceland, and look what happens. Success, listen, right now, sitting where we are, quarter-finals, I think everybody would be absolutely delighted with something like that. That's not to say that if England don't make the quarter-finals that he wouldn't be given a second chance, but certainly that would show real progress, the fact that England have won a knockout game. That has to be the ambition of any potential England manager, because it is a record which is frankly becoming a bit of an embarrassment.
I mean, as far as Gareth Southgate is concerned, I mean, this is almost, I suppose, the ideal situation. He's had that little period of interim charge, some very, very credible results within that. Of course, previously in charge of the youngsters, some of which he will be bringing through himself. A relatively straightforward group, although, of course, as the cliche goes, there are no easy games in international football. He's got time and the right kind of opposition to maybe do a little bit of experimentation and find his own style within that. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And he won't be frightened to chop and change a little if he feels it's necessary during the course of qualifying and friendlies. But I think in the main, he wants a settled team, a team that he can rely on and improve that team. And we saw during his 4 games in charge that there wasn't a lot of alterations other than enforced by injury. And I think that's because he's got a pretty clear idea of who the better players are within the England setup, and he wants to go on this particular journey with them and make them even better. But yes, by the end of the summer of 2018, I think we'll have a very good idea of the Gareth Southgate style, and let's hope it's one that's proving successful at major tournaments.
Do you think that England will be good to watch under Gareth Southgate?
Potentially they should be, yes. And I'd say that because Gareth Southgate will be careful without being too cautious, but the players at England's disposal are good players. They are capable of entertaining. Any team with the likes of Adam Lallana, Raheem Sterling, Dele Alli, they're not going to be anything other than easy on the eye. Let's not forget that. And it's making sure that they can take that into a tournament and not only do well, but actually play well and show exactly what the English style, if you like, can be.
Fantastic. Well, listen, it's been a pleasure speaking to you as always. Thank you for all of your insights, Nick.
Thank you very much.